news for their comfort food and another precious commodity, company.
Très coupé du monde, hein. Ils nous remercient d'être là pour eux, qu'on leur apporte des bons produits, et voilà, et puis le dialogue.
And here in France, no steak is served without a little wine. And stuck inside, people are drinking more. Small independent vendors, like this wine shop, have recently been allowed to reopen. In this tight community in the heart of Paris, which locals fondly call the village, wine seller Raymond Yves was overwhelmed by the reception he received when he got back to work.
J'ai décidé de rouvrir la boutique et tous les clients à moi étaient tellement contents de me revoir. Ils m'ont même applaudi comme les infirmières. J'étais même étonné.
The warm welcome hasn't eased his worries about the future, though.
Espérons seront encore là, mais j'ai peur pour beaucoup d'indépendants qui ne vont pas déposer le bilan. C'est surtout ça j'ai peur. Et dans le monde entier, parce que c'est pas que en France, je crois.
A short walk away, this bakery is already feeling the knock-on effects of lockdown. Parisians who can have swapped the confines of the city for the country. This baker's profits have plunged by 80%. He's had to make some painful decisions.
On a dû se séparer de 7 personnes. Et là, maintenant, on n'est plus qu'à 3, mais bon, voilà, c'est bizarre, c'est tout vide.
These street cafes usually would be overflowing with locals and tourists alike. After all, this is the very square where...
Yeah, it's an interesting dilemma sort of that we're seeing.
American writer Ernest Hemingway would come to sip his coffee or his wine when he lived here in the 1920s. Under lockdown, of course, it is quieter, but the question is, what happens next? France is now a country which has officially entered into recession. The country's just posted its worst economic quarter since 1945, when Europe had been ravaged by 6 years. Just down the street, the devastating economic impact of coronavirus is already plain to see. The Church of Saint-Médard has set up a food bank during the pandemic. The lunchtime queue for one of these blue bags, humbly filled with bread, yogurt, fruit and water, grows longer by the minute. Some of those lining up are people the parish priest says he never expected to meet.
Et ce qu'il y a de particulier là dans cette distribution, c'est que des gens arrivent qui ont des logements, mais économiquement, ils passent entre les mailles, ils n'ont pas d'aide, et donc du coup, ils n'arrivent plus à se nourrir.
Here in Paris, the fight is on to save a cherished way of life. But it's more than that. It's a fight to ensure no one goes without the bread that keeps this country and its people going.
And Helena joins us now from Paris. Helena, we are seeing economic pain on a small scale with some of these business owners. What's the outlook on a broader scale here?
Hi there, Alison. Well, it will likely be painful. Economists are predicting a contraction in GDP ranging anywhere from 9 to 12 percentage points, which could well be higher than that seen during the last global financial crisis. Remember, of course, this is a country which has already seen protests over economic inequalities with the Yellow Vest protest movement. And the left-wing leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, said that we could also see growing inequalities. He said that when it comes to coronavirus and lockdown, we're all in the same boat, but people here in France are not necessarily all in the same class when it comes to that boat. Alison?
Yeah, Helena, in the midst of this lockdown, there's some pretty high tensions in a particular part of Paris. There have been violent clashes between police and residents. Where is this happening? What's the backstory? What can you tell us about what's going on there?
That's right, Alison. Tensions have flared in recent weeks in some of France's poorest suburbs, the banlieue here, with residents and police over allegations of police brutality and racism when it comes to checks carried out by officers to make sure that people are conforming with lockdown. In terms of police brutality, what we have seen, for example, is one allegation from a man called Jean-Uriel Agbalika, who was apprehended by police outside the front door of his young son's house. He says that he was racially abused by an officer and was handcuffed around his ankles in an action he says was reminiscent of slavery. Take a listen to what he had to say.
For black men, that bring memories of oppression, of slavery, of stuff like that, and it was just impossible. But they didn't care. They didn't care.
And what we've seen in light of that, for example, in cases like that, is tensions flaring, people setting trash cans on fire, cars on fire, fireworks being launched at police officers, and riot police then surging into crowds in some of those affected neighbourhoods.
Helena, it's just heartbreaking to hear. What is the French government saying about this?
Well, Christophe Castaner, the Interior Minister, for his part, has tried to downplay some of those tensions. He has admitted, though, that it's in part to what he called frustration from young people under lockdown in these poorer neighbourhoods. However, he did order an increase in police checks in these poorer neighbourhoods. Saint-Saint-Denis, for example, one of the poorest neighbourhoods, has already seen over 200,000 checks since lockdown began. And people then can be issued with on-the-spot fines, for example, of over $100, which is expensive for many people, let alone some of the poorest in society.
Absolutely. Helena Humphrey in Paris, thank you so much.